Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started here in just a few moments. All right. Um, can everyone hear me okay, Emily? Can you hear me and see the PowerPoint in large view?
I can hear you, but I don't see the PowerPoint. All I see is the Windows icon.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second.
There you
Oh,
go.
okay. You can see this. Is it in large view?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Hello. My name is Desiree Island, and I am the IDA and NAP Program Manager here at Hcda. Um, if you are here for the 2022 application webinar, you are in the right spot. We are going to review the NAP Tax Credit Program. I have Emily Krauser with me assisting today. She is the Chief Deputy Director of Community Programs. So she'll be helping me and reading off some of the questions you can enter. And as you see, the application link is also listed here and is available on our NAP website. You should have also been notified from our listserv database to receive the application. So if you're not subscribed, be sure to check out our website to get that subscription to give you any updates or notices for the NAP program. Okay, so I'm just going to provide a brief little summary about the Neighborhood Assistance Program, and then I'm going to kind of review the application process and what that'll look like. Last, I will address any updates that we've made for the new program year. All right, so on this slide, you can see what NAP is and where the NAP program originated in with the Indiana code. So the Neighborhood Assistance Program is a program of the state of Indiana that gives us $2.5 million tax credits annually to nonprofit organizations to sell those as tax credits. When working with a donor, they should be able to provide you a donation so you'll get two times the amount. So, for example, if a donor gives you $200, then they would get $100 tax credit. IHCDA reports these donations once a year to the DOR or the Department of Revenue. Okay, so the NAP program cycle. Applications are now open. They close May 16th, and IHCDA will announce any approved organizations. Let's see here. So you'll pretty much apply for the program. You will find out if you get approved, and then there will be an agreement process where IHCDA will send you an agreement for you to send back a signed copy. We ask agencies to distribute at least 60% of their tax credits by December 31st. and you will report those donations by January 17th. Um, IHCDA will then use the report in last round second donor report to send that information to the Department of Revenue, for them to honor any 2022 tax credits submitted by the donors. You'll then distribute any remaining tax credits by March 31st of 2023. That will be the 100% benchmark. That'll be due April 17th. And then last, you will submit a closeout report September 25th, and that will capture all of the program activities your program did for the year, as well as any final donor information we may need. Um, so to ensure everyone's kind of on the same page and knows the differences between tax deduction and tax credits, we just really brought out the definition. So in a sense, tax deductions lower or reduces taxable income. And with a tax credit, it lowers a taxpayer's actual payment owed to the Department of Revenue. So, our application timeline, circling back to that. So, it was released April 18th. So, it'll be open for 4 weeks. Today is the webinar. This will be recorded and posted on the NAP website, I say probably by early next week. The due date for the applications is going to be May 16th, um, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We are hoping to announce the awards by June 24th, so it moves pretty quickly once we find out the qualifies. We'll make those announcements June 24th, issue the contracts June 27th, and then we'll hope to get the contracts back by July 1st because that is when you can start distributing the contracts. Um, Now, these are target tentative dates. So if there's any delay in getting the contracts out, we will extend the date to get those contracts signed. But if everything falls in alignment as we plan, and you're able to sign that contract and get it back to us, you can start selling the credits July 1st. But even if you do get your contract signed the day before, say for example on June 30th, you still cannot sell the tax credits until July 1st when the program year actually starts. All right. Any questions so far before we kind of get into the actual application process?
I believe if you're on via phone, you can hit *6 to unmute yourself, and I'm also monitoring the chat for any questions that come in that way. And Desiree, I do not see anything at this time.
Okay, great. We will go ahead. Okay. So the application is, like I mentioned, it's on Jot form. So at the beginning of the application, it's just going to ask for some contact information and some agency information. Um, we do strongly suggest that your agency tries to use an agency email. I do know we ran into this last program year with you know retention and issues with new hires and all of that. Some of the paperwork got lost in old emails. So if your agency can somehow come up with an agency email that more than one person has access to, that'll be easier for us to communicate with you as well as for you to send those contracts back to us. So we're going to ask for the organization's EIN number. And if you have any prior IHCDA grant information, if you can provide that, if it applies to you. There's also going to be a yes or no question if you've received a 501c3, a yes or no question if you've filed as a nonprofit domestic corporation in Indiana. And then there's a link on INBiz website to look up your organization to ensure that you're in good standing. And then, like last year, if those returning organizations, if you're familiar with the process last year, we're going to ask that you upload that document to show that you actually did go on the website to show that you are in good standing. And then we're going to ask you to go in depth of your program or your project or service that you plan to provide with the NAP credits.
Hey Desiree, I have one question about this in the chat, and that is there a way to change an old personal email login to our agency email address? So can they make that change on their own?
So if you are applying this year and you are you can put the updated email on the application, but in our system, you could just send, if you do get approved for the credits, you can send NAP an email and let us know, hey, this is the organization, but we did change the email, just so we're not making two different profiles in our database when you're submitting your claims and doing your reports. Does that answer?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. So moving on in the application, it will address the eligible services for the NAP program. So eligible services in a designated economically disadvantaged area. This can include an enterprise zone, opportunity zone, or qualified census tract, or any other federal or local designated economically disadvantaged area in Indiana. So funds are not able to be spent on any other services or activities. There will be a list already predetermined on the application, and you'll just have to click the box that your program most identifies with. Um, and if any organization, so say you apply for housing facilities. And later on in the program year, you need to change your goal or something. Please notify Hcda and give us your reasons of why you would need to change that for the new use of funds. A majority of the applications and programs are economically disadvantaged areas. So just try to be specific as possible to know what your category will fall under. So eligible services to individuals living in designated economically disadvantaged areas. So there's job training, education, and crime prevention. So now here's the actual definition of the economically disadvantaged area. So pretty much, like I mentioned, it's an enterprise zone or any federal or local designated economically disadvantaged area. The certification must be made on the basis of current indices of social and economic conditions. So you must show that there is a need. We have to show the data points in concentrating in those specific areas that there is a need. So we actually just show the three common areas listed on the applications with the urban enterprise zones, opportunity zones, and the qualified census tracts. However, if there are others, please be specific in notifying Hcda because I know there are some other options that it may fall under. Sorry. And then on the application, there are links to send you directly to those websites so that you can search your specific area to ensure you are um, ensure it's active. All right. So, like I mentioned, just let IHCDA know if you need approval for a different type of area before you submit your application. This program is very specific for targeting neighborhoods and areas. So if you have issues, we will work with you. Just kind of let us know and be specific as possible. So, for example, you can't send an application wanting to cover the entire Northwest region, which has like 20 or more disadvantaged areas. We are still keeping it to the five minimum or maximum. I'm sorry. So this slide just shows if you are going on to the website, how you on the Indiana government website, it'll show you how you'll click on your name and be specific as possible to find your census tract. Therefore, include the opportunity zone, census tract number, and the county if you desire when you are submitting the application. At the top, you can see the examples of if you are using Elkhart, for example, you're going to put the specific number so that we know which zone you are referring to. Okay, so here are some other examples. So, like I said, we're not accepting all enterprise zones. So, if you need to look on an individual zone website, the link is also on the application, just like it was last year. So, for enterprise zones, you're going to find your county, see your specific area, and then when you get to the website, you actually have to click on that particular zone, and it may direct you to a different website. And there's a screenshot for an example. So for the qualified census tract example, you're going to search your state, county, and make sure that on the drop down you do choose 2022. And then you can be able to choose where your service is located. Also, please make sure that when you do click on it, that it does say qualified as the status. I know we've run into that before where it's um, not qualified, but please make sure that it is qualified when you are tracking this. Any questions so far about the um, areas?
I did drop links to the pages with the different types of zones into the chat per your request. So if you need to get to those before the website, before this presentation goes on the website, you can grab them off of the chat.
Oh, thank you. That's good. All right. So on the NAP application, you can also choose designated households. Um, so code defines what an economically disadvantaged household is. So it's pretty much 80% of the area median income or any other federally targeted population. For example, 125% of the federal poverty level. That is something that we can accept. But please be specific in making that determination. Talk about the population you're serving, and please be clear about what the agency is asking to check those qualifications. Um, elaborate on how you're going to ensure that specific person qualifies in your program if you are going to follow a different um, targeted population. And I believe there is an other option on the application, and you can choose that. Just give me 1 second. Right. My computer froze. Here we go. All right. So we are going to ask for you to describe your NAP project description. Uh, is posted on the website, the 2022 to 2023 manual. So please review that when you are completing your application. Um, it is in section 400. So when you're completing the application, for example, choosing if you're choosing to do housing facilities, in your application's project description, please explain the activities that the NAP funds will be used for and how you'll support the housing facilities. If you have a idea that's not represented here, please email Hcda prior to submitting your application, and we can discuss that. And then also, pretty much just try to rephrase when you're answering the questions. There's an example, our NAP funded program supports housing facilities in our service area by, and then at that point, you will be specific on how the funds will support your project. So the description must be tied to the NAP eligible service. Like I mentioned, it is in the manual. Um, so if your project is to fund swim lessons in your facility's pool, please don't label the program education. Um, it should be labeled something more close to recreational facility because there are strict guidelines we do have to follow by code to ensure you're selecting the right category that the funds will be spent. So new last year for services that must be provided in a specific area, please describe how you'll serve in that area. So is your office in that area? If not, if you have a partner agency or a secondary office in that area, please be specific in the application so that we know what area the population will be served at. Okay, so we're also going to ask a little bit about um, your history with Hcda and NAP credits. So based on the last 2 years, it's going to ask if you received credits in 2020 or 2021. We're like last year, we're letting agencies ask for up to 15,000. Um, if your agency has received in at least 2020 or 2021. You don't necessarily have to receive them in both years, but those are the two focus years that we are looking at if you've received the credits. And then if you are new or have not received credits in several years, you may ask up to $5,000 if your agency has also had a record of missing reporting deadlines or not submitting benchmark reports, you will also fall under that category of being a new agency and only being able to ask for $5,000. So the credits are really what IHCDA awards you, and it'll be outlined in the agreement. So the funds are what you raise to distribute the credits to the actual donors. So IHCDA will ask you in your documentation, how many credits did you distribute, and then how much of that funding did you actually raise or spend on your actual project. And we do have a limit on credits, so we try to get as close as possible. However, we only get a certain pot of money, and there's a couple hundred agencies that apply every year, so we do have to, divide that up. Okay, like I mentioned, so benchmarks are extremely important in this program. Um, just making sure that you are meeting your benchmarks is very crucial if you want to stay in good standing and get the max amount of credits for the next program year. Um, you must submit a closeout report on time in order to be eligible for the next year. So that's always been the rule. We do ask that agencies try their best to make sure they're subscribed and meeting the deadlines of the three reports required for this program. And you will get a confirmation email once you submit your reports. If you don't, you can always email the NAP inbox, which is nap@ihcda.in.gov, and ask us, and I'll be able to respond and look in the system to see if you did hit submit. Same with your application. You must hit submit and have that actual receipt to you. So I would check your spam or any other form of email to make sure it didn't get in the wrong inbox. Questions so far?
I have a couple of questions that I actually answered in text that I will give the answer to out loud just so that everybody hears it. Um, One is that if you have any specific questions about your program and the extent to which your program fits in this, please do email nap@ihcda.in.gov. We know that there are lots of individual circumstances here, and we can help you troubleshoot through some of those before you submit your application. Um, Someone asked for additional information on the crime prevention section, and I pointed them to the manual because there's quite a bit about crime prevention in the manual. But if you do have a specific question you'd like to ask, once I'm done talking, I'll give everybody a chance to open up and ask those questions. One of the questions I got about is, are single family homes considered facilities? For example, they build single family homes in low income communities. And I did not directly answer that, Desiree, if you want to. Um, but if the work is being done in an eligible area, I believe that does um, count.
Yes, I believe that. And we can always follow up with the code and the manual because I don't have it pulled up right now. But as long as that is being built in that specific area that you're identifying on your application, that should be fine.
Great. We have one question that is, how does the donor redeem their tax credit when they file their when they file their taxes? So on the donor end, how does it work?
So we encourage agencies when they are completing the contribution form to make a copy, and you can give that to your donor. Also, I know in the past, thank you cards have been used, um, just as like a secondary documentation to the file, but the donors should be um, completing that contribution form, and the easiest way is really just to keep a copy of that for the agency and the donor to have that documentation.
Great. The next question is, we provide home-based services within qualified zones. However, our office itself is not within that zone. Do we need to provide the address of every location or home where we're delivering eligible services?
So, if I'm not mistaken, that may fall under the households, I believe. So so you're going to want to be specific and ask how you're going to document if the household is eligible based on the 80% or the 125% federal poverty rate, and B, the actual addresses to make sure they fall under that category if your office is actually not in the zone.
Yeah, and I would go ahead and list out the zones in which the homes are located and describe exactly how you intend to use this only for those specific locations. The next question, if we sell all of our credits prior to submitting the first benchmark report, are we required to submit the second benchmark report or just the closeout?
That's actually a good question because from last year, the 100% benchmark reports were just due yesterday. So, if in fact you do sell all of your credits by December 31st, which is the end of the first benchmark, you do not have to do the second half benchmark report, also known as the 100% benchmark report. The closeout report is required for everyone, and that'll be due in September.
Great. The last question I have right now is about the donor contribution form and who do we direct questions about the donor contribution form to? And all of your questions should go to the NAP inbox, which is nap@hcda.in.gov. The donor contribution form itself can be found on the NAP website, the partner page, which I will post in the chat. And then if you have a specific question about that form, please either type it in or unmute yourself and ask. It sounds like we are at the end of the questions that were typed in. And so if anybody would like to raise their hand or ask an additional question, please feel free to do that. Are there any significant changes from last year in the application process?
Um, Not specifically, no. It's really very similar to last year. Um, yeah, the application should pretty much be the same. the same requirements. You'll have to upload the same documents. Like I mentioned, the only thing we really want to stress is when you're putting down that email address, is someone can have, if more than one person can have access to that email, that would be great.
Yep. And then I think the only significant changes we made in the manual overall is that section 400 that describes how the um, how the different sections of eligibility lay out. We did make some changes to that section on eligible activities, just to clarify what we mean. Desiree, was I right about what section that was?
Yes, I believe so.
Woohoo!
All right, so we've got a few more slides. We can keep going if there's no other
I have one more
questions.
hand raised,
Okay.
but I'm trying to find who it is. Oh, Laura. I don't think I can unmute you. Allow mic. Okay. I allowed you to unmute yourself.
Okay, so I have a question about the donor contribution form, specifically when it talks about line 3, the tentative amount of credit. So I understand line 1, line 2. Are we supposed to just keep a running tally then? So let's say that we were given the 10,000 credit. Is line 3 just what we're subtracting every time that we get a contribution?
That's a good question. Um,
So
I'm not.
lesser of line
Yeah,
2 or
that's the
25.
tentative amount of
Right.
the organization's remaining credits available.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just like yes, exactly that. You keep subtracting from it until you get to 0.
So do you keep subtracting from the credit amount or the monetary amount?
I do. I believe it's the dollar amount, but I can see how you're reading it as the credit amount because it says number of credits.
Right. And then line 4 says multiply it by 2.
Yep. And we can probably take a look at that and clarify the wording around it just so that it doesn't cause confusion moving forward.
Okay, so it is the monetary amount then because it says credit, but at least a monetary amount.
Line 2. Yes. Dollar amount. If that
So
changes, we'll send a.
Okay, so question number 3 is the dollar amount that keeps getting subtracted.
Yes. The dollar
Okay.
amounts in credits, not the dollar amounts in donations. Does that make sense?
So it is the credit that's being.
Right.
No.
It's
So
the dollar amounts in credits that remain to be sold.
So what the organization still has available after the last donation came through?
No.
No.
It should be 0 at the end of your available credits.
Yes, at the very end, but as you're going through, because not everyone, sometimes it's 5 donations, sometimes it's 10 donations.
Right.
So if I'm at donation number 3 and I still have $7,000 of credits, is that what I put in that line?
Yeah, you put the dollar amount, not the number of credits. The credit dollar amount. No matter how many people you think that goes to. Am I making it worse? Why don't we?
I don't know if anyone else has questions about this. And so if someone has a better way of explaining it to me, that would be super helpful too. Um, I just, is it a running tally, a running subtraction? And so, yes, after you've collected all of it, this will be 0. But
Right.
until it is 0, are we just subtracting each time we get a donation.
I believe, yes. The way you're describing it sounds like like what we are hoping for.
What we're
But if you still have questions as we head out of this call, why don't we, not for the whole organization, relating to that donation in particular. Okay. Why don't we take a look at this and see if we can clarify the language around that? And
Okay.
then we will either post or email a clarification to the NAP listserv.
Okay, thank you very much.
Credits about, sorry, I'm taking notes real quick. Org. All right, and I'm going to put your hand down real quick and then look back at the chat. Oh, and it looks like people are trying to help us out here. So will there be, Desiree, this is for you. Will there be an award webinar at a later date?
Yes. So once agencies are approved or organizations are approved, we are hoping to get another webinar once we're, into the actual program year to discuss more in depth of the reporting process. So as soon as we get those dates out and as soon as the organizations are approved, we'll send that information out.
Okay. Wonderful. We will go over this in our award webinar, but the answers in the meeting chat are relatively clear. So that should help as well. And somebody suggested, Desiree, for that we create a demonstration of entering those donations and what they look like in the award webinar, just so that it's clear how to fill out that donor form.
Okay, sure. We'll take any feedback for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, group, for that.
All right. So next we can discuss the award process. All right, had to wake my computer up a little bit. So the formula shown below is shown to determine the value of the applicant's NAP award. So we actually get the allocation percentage. Here's the formula that we use to get to the award amount. So just be aware, please, of what you're asking. So the way the program works, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't meet benchmarks, it definitely will impact your future eligibility to ask for more credits. So please ask what you can handle. So in the past, if you've only been able to meet maybe 50% of your benchmarks the entire year, just be aware of what you've been able to handle in the past. Also, know the amount that you request may not necessarily be what you are getting. With the influx of organizations applying to this program, we haven't been allotted more money in this program, so we're having to spread that out amongst over, I think we had like 280 organizations last year. And the highest amount was around 9650, and the low as the most amount of credits agencies were able to obtain. And then the lowest amount I think was around $3,200. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we did last year. And this organization or this program continues to grow as the word gets out. So we are able to try to accommodate based on your request, but it is IHCDA's discretion. So here is a program timeline for the 2022-23. For IHCDA, our policy has been all reporting due on Mondays at 5 p.m., which is typically the end of the business day. So 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're trying to stay close to that as possible. However, if you look at July 1st, that actually falls on a Friday because that is a strict program year date. Also, January 17th, when the first half reports are due is actually on a Tuesday, because we observe Martin Luther King Day, which is the 16th. For so awards, we're going to try to announce those June 24th. Send out agreements, get those going by July 1st. Um, and the agreements, we are going to send those electronic, for asking for the electronic signature like we did last year. So if you're having any issues with that, please let us know. Do not wait until um, October or December to say you did not receive your contract. We're hoping to get some updates with Adobe this year, so that it can be more organized. We'll only have to send the agreement once. Hopefully, we can get it back from you guys in a timely manner, because last year I think I came on in August, so it was kind of a hot mess. So we want it as organized as possible. Um, that actual email may not be from me. It may say from Adobe Sign, your signature is needed. So just make sure around that time you'll check your inbox, you'll check your spam to make sure you are receiving that agreement, that contract. And like I mentioned, looking at this timeline, if you do sell all of your credits by the 60% benchmark, like I mentioned earlier, you do not have to complete the 100% benchmark. Um, I don't even think the system will allow you to do so, if you have sold all your credits by December 31st. You'll just need to complete the closeout form, and that is on the NAP website. It'll send you directly to the job form link, that is due September 25th of next year. So just some reminders, and some things included in the manual. Um, If reporting is missed, organizations can still apply next round, but as a new organization, so we definitely want to stress that. Please don't rely on, listserv if you don't get the notification. We try to get it out there. However, please keep your contract close to you so that you know the due dates of the actual reporting deadlines. Um, Additional info provided about funds raised, from distributing credits are needing to be spent based on application submission. Um, so be specific, like I said, of the service you're going to provide, and the location or the population served. Just try to be specific so that you don't have to worry about getting flagged and all of that. There's the manual pretty much spells out the different sections of the eligible services. And then in the application, just like last year, you can ask for 15,000, but um, reality is with this program growing, you may not get 15,000 in credits. All right. So contacting Hcda. Um, so right now I am the only person checking the NAP inbox. Emily does assist if I'm out, but um, if you have any questions, please send them to the NAP at ihcda.in.gov. If it is a reporting question or if you're locked out of your account, we kind of like to filter through those before we get our claims department involved so that they don't get so many emails. So first, I'll see if I can handle it. If I can't fix it in the system, which typically if it's a reporting issue, I can unlock your report, but I can't really enter in certain email addresses or organizational people and numbers and that sort of thing. Our claims department does that. So if you have any issues, you can email Nat first, and then I'll send that through to our claims department. And as best as you can, if you can please provide your agreement number in the email subject line, and then maybe be specific on the type of question that you're asking. Just so, like I mentioned, we have over 250 some organizations in this program, we had last year. So just trying to keep track, and everyone's I want everyone's questions answered to the best of my ability. And then let's see. So when you are a new organization, make sure that you are registered. Um, that information's on our NAP website too, as far as reporting instructions. So please don't wait till July 1st to try to register your organization. As soon as we announce agencies who are eligible for the program, please try to go ahead and get registered. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. If, like I mentioned, if you have any questions with the NAP program, please reach out to me, and I'll try my best to get that answered. The NAP manual is posted on the website as well as the NAP application. Um, there's a um, there's a FAQ document on there. There's a ton of resources on there as well as NAP reporting information if you need to know. But we are going to schedule a webinar once we get the program year started so that agencies can know how to actually do the reporting. Are there any unanswered questions or anything someone would like to add before we end today's webinar?
I don't see anything new in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand if you have something to ask. And then I did follow up with Lara in chat about the contribution form, which is that line 3 is basically asking what dollar amount will the official tax credit be for. It will look just like line 2 most of the time, but there are a few cases where it does not, and we can walk you through exactly what those cases are in our next webinar.
All right. If nothing else, thank you so much for joining, and everyone have a great day. Bye bye.